Yes, he's good.
Okay, now call to order the November 21st, 2024 meeting of the City of Nashua Planning Board. Secretary, can we have a roll call, please?
Yes, Mr. Chair. Mayor Donchis, Mike Peterson, Bob Bollinger, Adam Varley,
Here.
Maggie Harper, here, Dan Hudson, Scott Leclaire,
Here.
Larry Hirsch,
Here.
Cameron Green,
Here.
and Patricia Clayton.
Thank you. And we do have a quorum. So first up on our agenda is approval of the minutes from the October 17th, 2024 meeting. Has anyone had an opportunity to review the minutes, and would someone be willing to make a motion as to approval? Ms. Harper?
Yes, Mr. Chair, I'd like to make a motion to approve the minutes of October 17th, 2024, as written.
Thank you. So that motion by Ms. Harper is to approve the minutes as written. Is there a second? Second by Mr. Hirsch. Is there any further discussion? All those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed?
Just an abstention.
And one abstention from Mr. Leclerc. So that motion passes. Communications. Good evening, Scott. Sam?
Nothing new since the second upload for you guys.
Okay, excellent. Thank you. Okay, next we will turn to report of Chairman, Committee, and Liaison. Ms. Harper, do you have anything to report?
Only that there's an upcoming HDC meeting on the 9th of December.
Great. I don't think we have anything else, so I will go ahead and move into reading the procedure of the meeting for this evening before we head into the regular business. So the procedure for this evening will be as follows. After the legal notice of each plan is read by the chair, the board will determine if the application is complete and ready for the board to take jurisdiction. At that point, the public hearing will begin, at which time the applicant will be given an opportunity to present an overview and description of their project. They shall speak to whether or not they agree with the stipulations recommended by staff, and the board will then have an opportunity to ask relevant follow-up questions of the applicant or staff. The chair will then ask for testimony from the audience, and the chair will have the ability to limit the length of public testimony in the interest of time. First, anyone wishing to speak in opposition or concern to the plan may speak. Next, testimony will come from anyone wishing to speak in favor of the plan. The board may then ask any relevant follow-up questions of the applicant or accept any additional testimony from the applicant. After this has been completed, the public hearing will end and the board will begin the public meeting, at which time the board will deliberate and vote on the application before us. We ask that both sides keep their remarks to the subject at hand and to not repeat what has already been said. We'd like to be fair to everyone and make the best possible decision based on the testimony presented and considering all applicable approval criteria. Thank you for your interest and courteous attention. I ask that you turn off your cell phones or set them to vibrate at this time. So first, we have old business site plans, case A24-0140, Mark Berkovich, owner. This item has been postponed to the February 26, 2025 meeting at the applicant's request. I assume we don't need to take an action on that, given its applicant request. Next up, we have new business conditional use permits. Case number A24-0195, Humane Society of Greater Nashua Corporation. This is a conditional use permit to expand animal hospital use in an urban residential zone. The property is located at 24 Ferry Road in Ward 2. And we will hear this case together with new business site plan A24-0191, captioned the same, being a site plan to construct a 10,748 square foot building, addition and renovate the existing building. Is there someone here from the applicant to testify as this case? Oh, and I'm sorry, I apologize. First, we should probably take a motion on whether to accept these cases. So could I ask the board, if anyone's had an opportunity to consider, that we take a motion as to each of the conditional use permit and the site plan to confirm that they are complete and ready for the board to accept jurisdiction. Mr. Leclerc?
Sure, I'll make a motion first on A24-0195, the conditional use permit for this application, that it's ready for us to take jurisdiction.
Thank you, Mr. Leclerc. Is there a second to that motion?
I'll second.
Second by Mr. Green. Is there any further discussion? All those in favor? Opposed? That motion passes. Mr. Leclerc, would you like to take the next?
Sure, second motion regarding case A24-0191, and that application for the site plan is also ready for us to take jurisdiction.
Thank you, Mr. Leclerc. Is there a second to that motion?
I'll second again.
Second by Mr. Green. Any further discussion? All those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? That motion passes. Now I will turn to the applicant.
Appreciate it. Good evening, Mr. Chairman, members of the board. For the record, my name is Ethan Beals. I'm a project manager at Hayner Swanson, doing business at 3 Congress Street here in Nashua, New Hampshire. Here tonight representing the Humane Society for Greater Nashua Corporation, who I'll refer to as the Nashua Humane Society tonight. With me also tonight is project attorney Andy Perlman, Jonathan Halley, a principal architect with Warren Street Architects, Doug Barry, the president and CEO of the Humane Society, one of the board members of the Humane Society, who is just tremendously excited to come out and support this project tonight. With the chair's permission, I'll briefly go through, present some of the facts of the case, and then we'll be happy to answer any questions that any of the board may have. The existing site is located at 24 Ferry Road here in Nashua, New Hampshire. It is known in the City of Nashua Assessor's Office as Map G, Lot 39, and is located in the R18 B Suburban Residence Zoning District. The site measures 5.96 acres in size and is abutted by a residential condo complex to the north and to the east, Ferry Road to the south, and single-family residences to the south and to the west. The subject site is currently developed and contains an existing pet cemetery in the southern portion of the site, and an existing 7,000 plus or minus square foot footprint building that serves as a Nashua Humane Society, along with associated parking and other site features. The Nashua Humane Society provides veterinary care, animal shelter and adoption services, community clinics, and animal training services to the greater Nashua area. The pet cemetery has been on the property since the 1930s, and the existing building was opened as the Nashua Humane Society in 1978. Topography on the site can be generally classified as mild, with the main body of the site generally sloping in an easterly direction towards the abutting property. There is a small network of trails throughout the property that is utilized by volunteers to walk the shelter dogs. Access to the site is provided via a driveway curb cut near the southeast corner of the property out onto Ferry Road. And the existing building is serviced by city sewer, water by Pennachuck Waterworks, gas, and overhead electric and telecommunication utilities. Since 2014, the Humane Society has been working to increase the veterinary services provided for low-income portions of the community. Interestingly enough, for the last 50 years, a state law has actually restricted the veterinary services that organizations such as the Humane Society can provide. In 2022, that state law was actually relaxed, and now the only thing constraining their ability to further expand and grow their services is the limited space and aging facilities that they're currently in. As a result, it is being proposed to construct an approximately 10,500 square foot building addition onto the northwest side of the existing building. The existing building will be renovated and will contain the shelter operations, and the new building addition will house the veterinary services. The existing driveway will be slightly widened to provide for a safer two-way traffic, but access to the site will continue to be provided in the same location that it exists today. A 73-space parking lot will be constructed in front of the building. On our master site plan, we're also showing a 30 square foot expansion parking area that will only be constructed if the needs dictate it. Both 73 and then later, if constructed, 103 parking spaces are in between a minimum required of 13 spaces and a maximum allowed of 128 parking spaces required by code. A small access driveway will be provided along the side and rear of the building, and the existing sheds throughout the property will all be relocated onto a gravel pad behind the building and will continue to be used for storage. In your board packets tonight is a conditional use permit. Animal hospitals, vet services / animal pet services are allowed in the R18 zoning district by conditional use permit. The CUP criteria was prepared by Attorney Perlman, and as I mentioned, included in your board packet. Quickly summarizing, the project will not materially endanger the public health or safety nor devalue abutting property. The use exists today and has been in that same location since at least the 1970s. The project will not adversely impact highway or pedestrian safety, nor have an adverse impact on the natural environmental resources. And adequate public utilities already exist in the area to service the proposed project. In terms of traffic, anticipated traffic to the site is fairly minimal and generally includes employees, volunteers, and clients visiting for their pet needs. A traffic memorandum was prepared by Steve Pernaugh, professional engineer. It concluded that based on the Institute of Transportation Engineers, ITE Land Use Code 640, which is Animal Hospital Veterinary Clinic, the proposed site, once it's all constructed, can be expected to generate an additional 38 trips in the AM peak hour and 37 trips in the PM peak hour on an average weekday basis. Scott, if you don't mind switching to the building elevations.
Sure.
As Scott pulls them up, Jonathan's team at Warren Street Architects has been hard at work designing the building addition and renovation project. Thank you, Scott. The front facade of the addition was designed to match the existing building, and it will consist of vertical cedar shiplap painted in that maroon type color that exists today. This face of the building will also feature a natural fieldstone skirt at the bottom of the wall, and a large timber frame canopy will be constructed connecting the entrances of both portions, both the shelter and the veterinary service portion of the building. The rear and sides of the building will be constructed out of insulated metal panels in a generally earthy tone with a split-face CMU skirt. A canopy will also be constructed over the exterior dog kennel area that exists on the northeast side of the building. On November 12th, in an effort to be a good neighbor, the project team did notify and invite all abutters to a neighborhood meeting at the existing facility. While admittedly it was not well attended, we were happy to present the project to the abutters and go over the proposed project and answer any of the questions that we were asked. For utilities on the new building, new utility services will be installed, and once constructed, the building will continue to be serviced by city sewer, water by Pennachuck Waterworks, gas, and now underground electric and telecommunication utilities. In terms of stormwater, a subsurface infiltration practice is proposed under a portion of the proposed parking area. This practice looks to take advantage of the deep sandy soils on site to promote the infiltration of stormwater runoff back into the ground. This stormwater practice provides formal quantitative and qualitative treatment of runoff on a site that previously did not have any. A site lighting plan was provided. Lighting includes wall packs and several light poles out in and around the parking area. All lighting will be downcast, full cutoff fixtures to minimize light spillover onto abutting lots. A site landscaping plan was also included as part of our site plan set. In general, there are several planted trees along the entry driveway and parking lot, many shrub-type vegetation on the parking lot islands, and planted beds at the building entry. The existing wooded vegetation throughout the site, around the perimeter of the site, are all high-growth, relatively mature trees. To help supplement the vegetated buffer to the abutting lots, we're also proposing several lower-growth vegetation to be planted in the understory of the woods in strategic locations. Any trails that are disturbed throughout the woods will be relocated without any additional clearing or disturbance. And a 6-foot vinyl fence will be constructed along the majority of both sides, both property lines to the side and the entire rear property line. Here tonight, seeking 2 waivers from the National Land Use Code. The full waiver letter was included in your board package, and I'll briefly summarize it. The first one is of 190-279 requiring existing conditions on adjacent lots. This is a common waiver request that the board hears. Providing the justification being providing detailed survey on abutting lots is cost prohibitive and also provides no real benefit to the project or to the public. The second waiver request is of 190-172, which is the non-residential building design standards. As mentioned earlier, great care had gone into making the public-facing side of the building visually appealing, trying to match and enhance the front facade of the existing building by using vertical cedar shiplap, natural fieldstone skirt, and a timber-framed entry canopy. However, portions of the rear and sides of the building feature metal-insulated panels with a split-face CMU block skirt. In our opinion, we meet the spirit and intent of this regulation by providing a visually appealing building while still being cost-effective and using industry-standard building techniques and materials. In summary, we believe our site plan conforms to the City of Nashua Land Use Code. We've reviewed the staff report and are in agreement with staff's recommended conditions of approval. On behalf of the Humane Society team, we'd be happy to answer any questions you may have tonight, or if you'd like to adopt a dog or cat, please let us know, and I'm sure Doug and his team would be happy to help you.
Thank you very much. Questions from the board? No? Looks like none at this time. Okay, with that in mind, I will open it up to those in attendance here. Is there anyone in the audience that wishes to speak in opposition or concern to this plan? Is there anyone in the audience that wishes to speak in favor of this plan? Do we have anyone on Zoom?
No.
No. Okay. All right. Any questions at this point from the board, either for the applicant or staff?
I don't think so, not for me.
Okay. Is there anything that the applicant wants? Are we able to ask questions? Yes, yeah. If you have a question about the plan, please come forward to the microphone. Just state your name and address for the record, and then if you ask your question, we'll then have the applicant respond to it.
Okay. Julie Blackwell, 9 Hideaway Road. So I back up pretty much directly to the facility. So I believe, if I understand correctly, none of the woods between this facility and Hideaway will be disturbed at all, if I understand correctly.
Yes, we'll have the applicant come back up
Okay.
and respond to that. Did you have any other questions?
No.
Okay, thank you.
I can answer. If it pleases the board, I could also show you on the plan. There is some minimal clearing on that side of the property, basically just to the addition. The building addition is being constructed on that side of the property to make room for the addition, a little bit of a parking area, and that kind of loop access driveway. We are clearing a small portion of that side. As I previously had mentioned, our goal in this design was trying to maintain as much of that wooded buffer as possible. In addition to the existing wooded buffer, you can see the additional plantings that we're proposing up along that side. It's the top of the plan, or the western side of the building is Hideaway. Western side of the site is Hideaway. We're proposing some additional plantings along those abutters in the understory. And then we are also constructing a 6-foot vinyl fence along essentially that entire property line. It really extends all the way up to, you see those darker green existing pine trees right in that top left corner of the site. That's where the fence stops, because there's already some existing stockade fences in that location that we didn't want to disturb.
Thank you. Hopefully that answered your question. Okay, great. Okay. So as long as there are no further questions or comments, we will go ahead then and close the public hearing. And the board will now deliberate the applications before us in the public meeting. Seems fairly straightforward. Seems like a good plan from my perspective. And as the applicant just indicated, it seems like they've done their best to try to accommodate buffering for the neighbors and to make the additions to the site the least intrusive as possible. So, any other comments from anyone on the board?
No,
Sarver?
seems like a good plan.
Just that I think it's a great addition to the facility and a great addition to the community, where veterinarian services haven't been offered at the Humane Society since All Pet Vet, I think, left the facility. So I just think it'll be a great thing for the community and our fur babies.
All right. Well, for purposes of considering motions, I would just note that we have essentially 3 three different motions or sets of motions. First would be consideration of the conditional use permit. Second would be consideration of whether to grant the waivers with respect to the site plan application. And then finally, consideration of final site plan approval with the conditions noted. And just a quick check with staff, I'm assuming that the indicated communications there haven't been subsequent updates from what we have in the report in the packet. Okay. So with that, I would open it up to anyone to make that series of motions. Mr. Claire?
Sure. All right, so I'll make a motion first regarding the conditional use permit for this application, and that motion be that we grant the conditional use permit pursuant to section 190-15, and find that the applicant has provided sufficient rationale in their CUP narrative dated November 1st, 2024, and it meets the approval criteria detailed in 190-133F.
Thank you. Set motion by Mr. Leclerc to approve the conditional use permit with the findings described. Is there a second to that motion?
I'll second.
A second by Mr. Green. Is there any further discussion? All those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? That motion passes. Mr. Leclerc?
Yeah, make a second motion granting the following waivers. Waiver from section 190-279EE regarding the existing conditions plan, in that waiver is approved, as well as a second waiver request of 190-172 regarding the architectural requirements. Again, that waiver is approved, and that in considering these waiver requests, that the board is utilizing the criteria outlined in the staff report.
Thank you, Mr. Leclerc. So there's that motion then to approve both of the waiver requests based on the criteria specified in the staff report. Is there a second to that motion?
Before we do, is there an error in waiver request A, at least just a clerical error? It looks like adjacent parcels as appropriate and ends there. Would we need to amend that, or are we okay to approve?
You're seeing a "and" at the end of that sentence?
And in comma. Do I not have the most recent?
Yeah, that's because, yeah, mine doesn't have the "and."
Okay.
No, mine either. Yep.
I do not have the most recent.
Okay.
Yeah, no, that's fine.
Plain text.
Okay, so I saw a second from Mr. Hirsch. Is that correct? Okay. Any further discussion on that motion? All those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? That motion passes.
Okay, I'll make one more motion.
Mr. Leclerc?
Sure, and that motion be to grant site plan approval for this application for a single-story, 10,478 square foot addition and associated site improvements at 24 Ferry Road as detailed on the site plan. And we find that the site plan meets the approval criteria under section 190-146D, and that the subsequent conditions in the staff report be included.
Okay. So that is a motion by Mr. Leclerc to approve with the conditions noted in the staff report. Is there a second to that motion? Seconded by Mr. Hirsch. Any further discussion? All those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Okay, and that motion passes. Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Okay, next on the agenda, we have new business subdivision plan A24-0183, 75 Manchester Street LLC. Owners proposed one-year extension plan for a two-lot subdivision. Property is located at 75 Manchester Street in Ward 3. Can I have a motion from a member of the board that this application is complete and ready for the board to accept jurisdiction? Ms. Harper?
Yes, Mr. Chair, I'd like to make a motion to take jurisdiction of new business 824-0183.
Thank you, Ms. Harper. Is there a second to that motion?
Second.
Second by Mr. Leclerc. Any further discussion? All those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Okay, that motion passes.
Mr. Chairman, members of the board, good evening. Andy Perlman, attorney with Prunier and Perlman, here on behalf of 75 Manchester Street Limited Liability Company. We're simply seeking a one-year extension of the approval. There are no changes to any of the plans, no changes to any of the conditions of approval. We've kind of worked through most of the conditions of approval. Sadly, one of the owners passed away as we were going through this process, which created a title mess. It took a better part of a year to kind of work through the title issues. That wrapped up in September. And we are here in November, and our clients are looking at a spring demo and build out. So we're just looking to extend the approval for a year so we can get the 2 units built. Happy to answer questions. Pretty straightforward.
Seems straightforward. Any questions from the board?
Nope, not for me.
Okay, thank you very much. Okay, is there anyone in the audience wishing to speak in opposition or concern to this plan? Is there anyone wishing to speak in favor of the plan? Board members have any questions before we close the hearing? Applicant have anything to add? Okay. I will then close the public hearing. We will move into the public meeting for the board to consider the application before us. So again, I agree with the applicant. Seems pretty straightforward. Simple one-year extension with no changes. Any comments, or does anyone want to make a motion?
I'll make a motion.
Mr. Leclerc?
Yeah, so I'd make a motion regarding this new business for this application. That motion be that we do grant the extension and that the plan does meet the requirements outlined in Site Plan NRO Section 190-146D, and all prior conditions of the approval be included.
Thank you, Mr. Leclerc. That motion is to approve 824-0183, including the prior conditions. Is there a second to that motion? Second by Mr. Hirsch. Is there any further discussion? All those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Okay, that motion passes.
Thank you very much.
Thank you. Next up, we have new business site plan, case A24-0192, YMCA of Greater Nashua owner. This is a proposed site plan to construct an outdoor recreation center, a one-story addition, a vestibule, and associated site improvements. Property is located at 90 Northwestern Boulevard in Ward 1. As to this application, can I have a motion from the board that this application is complete and ready for the board to accept jurisdiction?
So moved.
Motion by Mr. Leclerc. Is there a second?
Second?
Second by Ms. Harper. Any further discussion? All those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? That motion passes.
Good evening, Mr. Chair, members of the board. For the record, my name is Tom Zajac. I'm a civil engineer with Hayner Swanson, 3 Congress Street here in Nashua. Here tonight representing the applicant, the YMCA of Greater Nashua. With me here tonight is their COO, Joe Manzoli. We're here tonight seeking site plan approval for a proposed outdoor recreation center. I've got a very brief proposal, and Joe and I can then answer any questions from the board if you have it. As you see on the plan here, the site is 90 Northwest Boulevard, map H, lot 648. It's nearly a 9-acre site located within the Westwood Industrial Park in Northwest Nashua, zoned Park Industrial, butted by the railroad to the north, as well as other industrial and commercial uses on all sides. Access to the site today is via an existing shared driveway with an adjacent industrial user. Used to be called 2CPAC, now it's AutoJean. A little bit of history to the site. In the early 2000s, the site was part of the original Westwood Park development, and more specifically, the Corning Lasertron project. So this was a 55-acre parcel, fully designed and permitted for more than 500,000 square feet of manufacturing and nearly 1,200 parking spaces. That project was only partially constructed. All the utility infrastructure was put in place, including the existing stormwater basin that's on the site now. I'll call it a C-shaped basin. The excess land was then subdivided from the original lot to create this subject site, as well as the two other parcels, the AutoJean parcel, as well as what was formerly the Bellavance Beverage building. In 2013, we came in with a roughly 55,000 square foot building that was constructed on the subject parcel, along with about 50 parking spaces. That building was converted from an industrial use to an indoor sports facility, which was known as the Nashua Sports Academy. In 2019, a site plan approval was granted for the YMCA to build a proposed aquatic center on the site. Included a big outdoor pool, splash pad, playground, clubhouse building, along with a big parking expansion. Upon the approval, the Y purchased the property, occupied the existing indoor sports facility, and that became known as the Westwood Park branch of the YMCA of Greater Nashua. Construction was so close to starting on March 7th, 2020, before the world stopped and the project was delayed and then ultimately never constructed due to the pandemic. So we're back before you here tonight. We think we've got an even better project. It's a very similar approach to the aquatic center in terms of an outdoor recreational area footprint as well as expanded parking. The footprint of the recreational area, that box, is roughly 200 by 230, so a little more than an acre. You've got multi-sport courts, a turf field, a playground, a splash pad. There's some outdoor pavilion space, as well as a number of nooks and crannies of green space, both for kind of passive recreation as well as bocce ball, cornhole, maybe some outdoor fitness classes. Really expand their offerings in an outdoor manner. As part of the project, we do have a small one-story, roughly 1,000 square foot building addition for bathrooms and storage so that folks don't have to go inside the existing building who are using this new outdoor space. We're also going to put a small vestibule addition at the existing entrance to kind of amplify that location. Hours of operation are the exact same that were posed for the aquatic center. So Monday through Sunday, 8 a.m. to dusk, and this would be seasonally, of course, because this is an outdoor facility. And both the indoor and outdoor facilities would be available for use by the YMCA of Greater Nashua members, which also benefit from their existing Nashua location by Stello Stadium, as well as their location up in Merrimack. We are, as part of the project, proposing a new site driveway out onto Northwest Boulevard, which hopefully will take a little bit of pressure and use off of the shared driveway with AutoJean. We are proposing roughly 190 additional parking spaces on site, kind of on three sides of the existing building and the proposed recreational area. That brings us to 242 spaces total. Well above the minimum, which is about 150, and compares well to the existing supply at both their Merrimack facility, which has about 228 parking spaces, and their Nashua facility, which has about 528. There also is, the YMCA is good neighbors with AutoJean and has, since the original occupation of the building in 2019, has leased roughly 50 spaces of overflow parking in one of AutoJean's closest parking lots. If you've ever been out there, there's a lot of empty space out there. So in their peak times, they've worked out a formal lease agreement with AutoJean, which gives them a little flexibility there. Additional site improvements include the new driveway, the parking, curbing, sidewalks, fencing, landscaping, site lighting, and utility services. With regards to stormwater, The site is located within the city's water supply protection district. Stormwater runoff generated from the project will be directed into the existing, what I'm calling the C-shaped stormwater basin that's out there that existed as part of that original park development. We are making modifications, so we're filling the portion that is up along Northwest Boulevard and expanding a portion along the westerly side. So we're really filling in that front portion and pushing the basin a little further to the west. And what that's going to do is to give us additional capacity in that basin. We're also adding a more modified outlet control structure to really maximize the efficiency of that basin. Again, that was designed 25 years ago for a much larger development. We've submitted that study showing the revised analysis shows that basin can well accommodate this project, as well as grandfathered rights of adjacent properties to continue to use that basin as well in the future. Mr. Chair, we do have two waiver requests we're seeking tonight, outlined in my letter dated November 14th. The first one is for the existing conditions on adjacent properties, 190-279-EE. The second is related to interior landscaping within the proposed parking area, section 190, 184D1. We don't ask for that waiver lightly. I know there's been a focus to make sure that parking lots and new designs are adherent to that. So I appreciate your consideration of that waiver request tonight. The goal is really to maximize the parking on site while creating landscape buffers along Northwest Boulevard and the shared driveway where our view sheds are most prominent from the public way. We did submit a landscape plan. Those plantings are shown here on the plan. There's a significant number of plantings proposed, especially along the perimeter and up along Northwest Boulevard. We also got some fairly oversized landscape islands within the interior of the parking lot. So the regulation requires that no more than 10 parking spaces, interior parking spaces in a row exist without a landscape island or median. We have one interior parking bay that you can see is on the southerly side or left-hand side of the new recreational center. That includes aisles of 10, 11, 11, and 12. So we're slightly over that 10 space threshold. As I mentioned, there are oversized islands on the end and the middle to help offset that, and those also help with some of our truck turning and life safety access movements through the site. So adding additional islands to meet the regulation, in my opinion, would provide little benefit. It result in a slightly less efficient parking layout and would only make things less efficient in terms of maintenance and snow plowing out here to add additional islands. So we would ask for your consideration in both of those waiver requests tonight. Mr. Chair, that completes my presentation. We've read through the staff report, and all the proposed conditions are acceptable, and so we'd be happy to answer any questions at this time. Thank you.
Thank you. Just a quick question on the islands and the waiver. I understand the proposal for I guess it was the spots on the west or where, but the new parking that's in the rear of the addition of the existing building, it doesn't appear that there are, maybe I'm missing it, maybe there's one island there, but are those not considered interior spaces?
Correct. Those would be, any head-in spaces would be considered perimeter.
Yeah. Other questions from the board?
Just out of curiosity, is this more parking than what had originally been proposed?
From the 2019
Yeah.
plan? Or actually slightly less.
Just a little bit
So the
less.
aquatic center was smaller in that footprint, and so the recreational center is a little bit bigger in the footprint, so we have slightly less parking.
Okay, thank you. I was just curious.
Mr. Leclerc?
I was just trying to understand on the plan, is there any dumpsters or anything on this plan somewhere?
So there is an existing dumpster that we're slightly modifying the location to in the upper right-hand corner of the plan. It looks like a little white rectangle back there.
Okay.
So that would be pushed back slightly. There's an existing access road behind the building now,
Yep.
and there's a dumpster area there. We would be pushing that back and essentially reconstructing the pad and dumpster enclosure.
Okay, so it does have an enclosure. It's hard to see that.
Other questions from the board?
Thank you.
Okay, thank you. Is there anyone wishing to speak in opposition or concern to the land? I'm suspecting not, but anyone wishing to speak in favor of the plan? Okay. Any other questions for the applicant? Anything the applicant wishes to add? Okay. Anything the staff wishes to add? Okay. Everybody's silent. Good. All right, then I will go ahead and close the public hearing. We will move into the public meeting to deliberate the application before us. So yes, it is, as Mr. Sajak said, I recall the last iteration of the plan from 2019. I think it is, at least in scope, and a lot of the facilities are similar. I actually think, I haven't been a Y member for a while, but having gone out to that location quite a bit years ago, there was definitely a need for more parking, and I think the facilities are a great addition, so looks good to me.
Great.
Any
Yeah,
other comments from?
I would just make a comment, yeah, it seems like a good layout, good use of that area back there, seems to fit in well with the adjacencies, so no issues on my end.
Other comments from the board, questions? Okay. So in this case, we have two sets of motions that will be required. First, consideration of the two waivers that were requested by the applicant, and then following that, the approval of the site plan with the conditions indicated. Would anyone like to take up that first motion, Mr. Leclerc?
Sure, I'll make a motion that we grant the waivers for this application for 190-279E, waiving the requirement to provide existing conditions plan that shows existing conditions on adjacent parcels, and then additionally, we grant the waiver for 190-184D1 with respect to the need for to add landscape islands after every 10th parking space. And then considering these waiver approvals, that the board is utilizing the criteria outlined within the staff report.
Okay, thank you, Mr. Clare. So that motion is to grant the waiver request based on the criteria indicated by Mr. Leclerc. Is there a second to that motion?
Second.
Second by Ms. Harper. Any further discussion? All those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? That motion passes.
Okay.
Mr. Leclerc.
I'll make a second motion with regard to this application, and that being that we approve or find that the site plan is in conformance with our approval criteria under 190-146D, and that we grant this site plan approval with the subsequent conditions that are written in the staff report.
That motion is by Mr. Leclerc to approve and grant final site plan approval with the conditions specified in the report. Is there a second to that motion?
I'll second.
Second by Mr. Green. Is there any further discussion? All those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? That motion passes.
Thanks.
Okay, well, that brings us to other business. So first up on other business, we have the tentative agenda. to consider whether there are any proposals of regional impact. So has anyone had an opportunity to review that tentative agenda? And would anyone be willing to make a motion as to regional impact?
Oops, sorry.
Mr. Claire?
Yeah, so I've reviewed the notes from the technical review meeting of November 4th, and do not find any of the tentative projects to have regional impact implications.
Motion by Mr. Leclerc that there are no proposals of regional impact. Is there a second to that motion? Second by Mr. Hirsch. Any further discussion? All those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? And that motion passes. Okay, and then we have the consent agenda items, and this is with respect to certification of compliance with the conditions to approval for case number A24-0072. What is the description of this? 21 to 23 Perry Avenue. So this is just confirming, or I guess acknowledging that the conditions for this.
They met the precedent conditions and are ready for final approval.
Right. So I guess it would be a motion just to confirm and acknowledge that the precedent conditions for the approval of that plan have been met.
Just a question for staff, is this a kind of a new thing, or that we're
Yeah.
splitting these up and?
So
Yeah.
when we were doing precedent and subsequent conditions in review of the state statute around planning board motions relative to conditional and final approval, the state statute reads as basically a plan can be granted conditional approval, and that conditional approval can then become final upon certification to the board by its designee, which would be planning staff in this case, that the plan has met those precedent conditions. So this memo is the vehicle for that certification.
Got it. So these would only come up with precedent conditional approvals?
We're moving towards granting final approvals because in most cases, the conditions that we place on these final approvals do not require, the operative word being discretionary judgment on behalf of the board. It's really kind of box checking and satisfying planning and engineering staff comments. So we find that we're actually able to grant final approvals rather than relying on the conditional approval process.
Fair.
Staff would follow up, yeah.
Okay. Fair.
Mr. Leclerc?
Sure, I'll make a motion to, I guess it would be to grant final approval, right?
Final, yep.
Yeah, for case number A24-0072, recognizing the memo of November 18th, 2024, from the planning department indicating the precedent conditions have been met.
Thank you, Mr. Leclerc. Is there a second to that motion?
I'll second.
Second by Mr. Green. Is there any further discussion there? All those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? That motion passes. Anything under discussion items? Staff?
Nope.
No?
Just have our one meeting in December, 2 weeks.
All right.
Happy Thanksgiving.
Happy Thanksgiving to everyone.
Yeah.
That's right.
All right, well,
I would make actually just one point in question to the board, annual Martha's convening after a meeting. If we would like to still do that, it is best practice to notice that on the agenda as is actually a convening of a public body, as there would be more than a quorum. So if that is something that the board would like to do, if you would indicate so, we will notice accordingly.
Thank you.
Sounds like a good idea. It's a short agenda too, right?
Yes, just one project on East Otterson Street. Yep.
Yeah. Makes sense.
all right. Well, with that, I would take a motion to adjourn.
Mr. Chair, I'd like to make a motion to adjourn.
Motion to adjourn from Ms. Harper. All those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? That motion passes, and we are adjourned at 7:50.